Rumors exploded overnight that nearly a dozen rappers were taken into custody just hours after explosive footage from 50 Cent's documentary hit the internet, and the hip-hop world hasn't been the same since. The clips, now circulating everywhere, allegedly capture moments so damaging they could end careers in seconds. And instead of staying quiet, 50 Cent leaned all the way in, taunting those involved, posting arrest clips, and turning the chaos into a public spectacle. Today, we're diving deep into what was revealed, the fallout shaking the industry, and the reason nobody can look away. But to really understand how everything spiraled out of control, you have to rewind to December 2025. That's when the four-part Sean Combs' The Reckoning dropped on Netflix and instantly set the culture on fire. Behind the scenes, 50 Cent teamed up with director Alexandria Stapleton to peel back the layers of Sean Diddy Combs like never before. All 4 episodes were released at once, nearly 2 years after the project was first announced on December 7, 2023. And make no mistake, this wasn't some rushed, low-budget exposé. This was a full-scale, high-stakes Netflix production built to hit hard. Netflix described the series as a jaw-dropping, investigative deep dive that exposes the disturbing allegations surrounding Sean Diddy Combs and the empire he built under Bad Boy Records, spanning decades of power, influence, and controversy. The episodes pulled viewers through a storm of history. The first 2 chapters revisited the violent East Coast, West Coast rivalry of the 90s, reopening wounds tied to the unsolved murders of Tupac Shakur and the notorious B.I.G. From there, the series dissected pivotal moments in Diddy's rise, his war with Death Row Records, his clashes with major rap figures, and his high-profile relationships, including the one with Cassie Ventura. But none of that prepared viewers for what came next, the footage no one believed actually existed. Hidden within the series were never-before-seen recordings captured during the 6 days leading up to Diddy's arrest, along with raw, handwritten journal entries from Bad Boy co-founder Kirk Burroughs. Those notes detailed years of managing Diddy's personal life and financial empire, and what they hinted at sent shockwaves through the industry. The truth? That footage wasn't meant for the public at all. It was originally filmed by a videographer Diddy personally hired to document his life and ongoing legal battles for a private project. Then everything unraveled. After Diddy's arrest, a third-party freelancer allegedly leaked the material while lead documentarian Michael Oberle was out of town. Speaking to Rolling Stone on December 11th, Oberle made it clear this wasn't about money. This was betrayal. Someone, he claimed, crossed the line and secretly handed the footage over to 50 Cent. And what that footage revealed was impossible to ignore. In one chilling segment, Diddy appears visibly shaken, angry, desperate, arguing with his lawyer about mounting losses, while pushing his legal team to find someone willing to operate in what he called the dirtiest of dirty business, to fight back against the accusations closing in on him. When questioned about how he got his hands on something this sensitive, 50 Cent didn't exactly deny it, but he didn't confirm it either. In an interview with a Hollywood Reporter just before the series dropped, both he and Stapleton refused to reveal their sources. His response? Cold and calculated. Why would you ask us to reveal our sources? And Stapleton's stance was even sharper, drawing a line that made one thing clear. This story was only getting started. Director Alexandria Stapleton didn't hesitate when pressed about the most controversial element. "It came to us," she said, her tone firm. "We secured it legally. Every frame, every second. We have the rights." But behind that statement was a deeper truth everyone in the industry already knew. Sean Diddy Combs had spent decades documenting his own life. Cameras were never far from him. It wasn't just a habit, it was an obsession. And in The Reckoning, those personal recordings didn't just tell a story, they exposed one. The documentary didn't shy away from uncomfortable moments that forced viewers to see Diddy in a completely different light. One clip, in particular, spread like wildfire. It showed Diddy out in Harlem, smiling, posing, embracing fans. But the tone shifted instantly. As soon as he stepped back into his luxury car, the energy changed. He asked for hand sanitizer, then a bath, then muttered, "I feel dirty, like I need to wash." It was jarring, unsettling. That right there tells you everything, 50 Cent later said, pointing to the moment as proof of something deeper beneath the surface. And for 50 Cent, this wasn't just content, it was personal. When The Reckoning officially dropped on Netflix in early December 2025, the response was immediate. During an interview with Robin Roberts on ABC News, 50 Cent broke down why he chose to be part of something this explosive. "If I stayed silent," he said, "people would think hip-hop co-signs this." To him, the project wasn't optional, it was a responsibility. He made it clear that many voices in the industry couldn't speak freely, and he saw himself as one of the few willing to step forward. If he didn't, he warned, the entire culture risked being misrepresented, or worse, protected under silence. And the audience? They showed up in massive numbers. The docuseries pulled in over 50 million views within weeks, numbers that stunned even 50 Cent himself. "I knew it would hit," he admitted. But beating something like Stranger Things? I didn't see that coming. That level of success changed everything. Overnight, his image evolved. He wasn't just the internet troll anymore, the guy throwing shots on Instagram. Now, he was something else entirely. Someone who could take your story and put it on a global stage for millions to dissect. But while the public was glued to their screens, Diddy's camp was already going to war. Sean Diddy Combs' team wasted no time firing back, calling the documentary a shameful hit piece, packed with illegally obtained material. They argued that the footage, captured in the days leading up to his September 2024 arrest, was never meant for public release. His spokesperson, Judah Engelmayer, didn't hold back. In a statement to Variety, he accused Netflix of using stolen content, emphasizing that Diddy had been carefully documenting his life since he was 19 with the intention of telling his own story, on his own terms. But the accusations didn't stop there. The statement took a direct shot at 50 Cent himself, labeling him a longtime enemy with a personal vendetta. According to Diddy's team, handing over a project this sensitive to someone who had publicly criticized him for years wasn't just questionable, it was deeply personal. They even referenced Netflix CEO Ted Sarandos, suggesting that Diddy had expected fairness from someone he respected. Instead, they claimed his life story had been placed in the hands of a rival. To them, it wasn't just business, it was betrayal. Behind the scenes, the legal pressure was intense. Just days before the release, Diddy's lawyers reportedly sent a cease and desist to Netflix, arguing that the use of pre-indictment footage crossed a legal line. They demanded it be stopped. It wasn't. The series aired anyway. And 50 Cent? He responded the only way he knows how, by mocking the threat publicly, turning even the legal drama into content. Netflix, however, refused to back down. In a firm response, the platform dismissed every allegation. They stated clearly that the claims surrounding Sean Combs, the reckoning were false, that the footage had been obtained through legal channels, and that the project had no connection to any prior dealings with Diddy. They also pushed back on the narrative of control, clarifying that while 50 Cent served as an executive producer, he did not control the creative direction. No one involved, they added, was paid to participate. But by that point, the damage, or, depending on who you ask, the truth was already out. That final detail? It changed everything. Netflix made it crystal clear, 50 Cent did not have creative control. A direct, calculated response to the growing accusations that this entire project was nothing more than a personal vendetta against Sean Diddy Combs. And just when it seemed like things couldn't get stranger, they did. In a twist no one saw coming, 50 Cent jumped on social media claiming he had received an early Christmas gift from Diddy right after the documentary dropped. The post? A bouquet of flowers, delivered while he was performing at a Miami club. On the surface, it looked almost surreal. A rival sends flowers after being exposed on a global stage? It felt less like a peace offering and more like a message. But Diddy's camp shut it down immediately. When questioned by Complex, they flat out denied it ever happened, brushing it off as a possible prank, someone playing a joke in poor taste. While the internet debated flowers and mind games, the reality behind the scenes was far darker. The legal storm surrounding Sean Diddy Combs was only getting worse, and the documentary poured fuel on an already raging fire. Public interest skyrocketed as new details resurfaced, pulling even more attention to the case that had been building since his September 2024 arrest. The charges were severe: racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking involving force, fraud, or coercion, and transportation tied to prostitution. Then came the conviction. Just 2 months before the series aired, Diddy had already been sentenced to 50 months in prison after being found guilty on 2 prostitution-related charges in October 2025. He had spent over a year inside Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center before eventually being transferred on October 30th to the lower security FCI Fort Dix in New Jersey. For a moment, it seemed like the situation had stabilized. It hadn't. By 2026, the case was evolving again, getting bigger, darker, and more complicated. During a recent court hearing, an escort service owner reportedly testified that Diddy had requested more than 30 male escorts. Even more alarming, attorneys hinted that additional state-level criminal charges could be on the way. And of course, 50 Cent didn't stay silent. The moment those reports surfaced, he took to Instagram with a message that sent shockwaves through the internet. Direct, unfiltered, and aimed straight at his longtime rival. He referenced court documents alleging that Diddy assaulted a male escort and then issued threats to keep him quiet. Whether people believed it or not didn't matter. The damage was already spreading. But the controversy didn't stop with Diddy. It started circling back. A new lawsuit emerged, this time tied directly to the documentary itself. A former sex worker featured in the series filed legal action against both 50 Cent and Netflix, accusing them of twisting the narrative. According to the filing, the project deliberately edited and distorted their testimony, reshaping the story to portray Cassie Ventura as a victim while allegedly suppressing key parts of the plaintiff's account. Now, the lines were blurring. What started as an exposé was turning into a legal battlefield, on all sides. And yet, through all of it, 50 Cent didn't slow down. Not even for a second. Because to understand why he went this far, why he pushed this hard, you have to go back. Way back. This wasn't just about a documentary. This was personal. Decades personal. Sean Diddy Combs and 50 Cent had been circling each other for over 20 years. Industry peers, occasional collaborators, but never truly allies. What began as shared space in the same world eventually spiraled into one of hip-hop's most layered and unpredictable rivalries. Business conflicts, diss tracks, rumors of conspiracy, endless trolling, and now a Netflix series that dragged everything back into the spotlight. Their history stretches back more than 25 years, and in the beginning, it wasn't always war. Early on, the tension was subtle, almost invisible. During the rise of 50 Cent, he found himself working alongside Diddy, even contributing to tracks connected to the Notorious B.I.G.'s posthumous 1999 album Born Again. They moved in the same circles, shared the same rooms, did business. But something shifted, and by 2006, everything changed. That's when 50 Cent dropped a diss track titled The Bomb and crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. The track didn't just take shots. It made a dangerous accusation that Diddy knew who was responsible for the murder of the Notorious B.I.G., his close friend, his artist, his legacy. A case that remains unsolved to this day. It wasn't just music anymore. It was personal. It was explosive. And it was permanent. From that moment on, their relationship fractured. Publicly, things sometimes looked calm, controlled, even. There were moments where it seemed like the tension had cooled. In fact, not long after, 50 Cent even interrupted one of Diddy's interviews in a seemingly playful exchange, trading jokes and smiles like nothing had happened. But underneath it all, something had already broken. Then, in one of the strangest alliances the culture had ever seen, Sean Diddy Combs and 50 Cent briefly stood on the same side, teaming up to troll Rick Ross during the height of G-Unit's feud with him in 2009. It looked like unity, but it didn't last. Because with these two, the tension never really disappears. It just waits. And by 2014, it came roaring back. During an interview with 92Q Jams, 50 Cent didn't hold anything back, tearing into Diddy's track Big Homie and calling it straight trash. "He don't even need a record," 50 said coldly. "He ain't got one." But the music wasn't even the most uncomfortable part of their history. The real tension lived in the personal moments. At one event, 50 recalled an interaction that left him visibly unsettled. He described Diddy making comments that felt off, comments he didn't fully understand, but didn't sit right either. Then, he brought up a moment from Chris Lighty's wedding that still stuck with him. According to 50, Diddy casually told him he'd take him shopping. That was it. But the way it was said, it hit different. "I had to step away," 50 admitted, "before I messed the whole wedding up." It wasn't just awkward, it was tense, loaded, and never really addressed. Diddy, on the other hand, played it all down. During his appearance on The Breakfast Club, he brushed off the entire situation with a smile. "I don't have no beef with Fifth," he said. "He loves me." To him, it wasn't hate, it was something else entirely. But not everyone was convinced. Things took a darker turn in 2023, when Diddy's legal issues started making headlines. That's when 50 escalated things to another level, publicly suggesting that Sean Diddy Combs had knowledge connected to the death of Tupac Shakur, a claim Diddy has always denied. It was a dangerous accusation, one tied to one of the most painful, unresolved tragedies in hip-hop history. And by 2025, this wasn't just social media trolling anymore. 50 Cent had evolved. He wasn't just posting memes. He had built an entire machine, a production company, a deal with Netflix, and a documentary series with Diddy's name front and center. What started as trolling had turned into power. Real power. The kind that could shape narratives and force the entire industry to pay attention. But not everyone was cheering him on. Some of his oldest enemies saw an opportunity and took it. Ja Rule wasted no time reigniting his long-standing feud with 50 Cent, slamming his involvement in Sean Combs' The Reckoning. According to Ja Rule, 50 wasn't exposing anything. He was exploiting it. In a series of heated posts following the documentary's December 2nd, 2025 release, Ja Rule went all in, calling him everything from a rat to a snitch. By December 7th, the attacks escalated even further. Speaking through posts highlighted by Complex, Ja Rule labeled 50 Cent a cancer to the culture, accusing him of having hidden motives behind the documentary. He didn't stop there. He even brought up a past allegation involving 50 and Daphne Joy, suggesting that 50 was no different than the man he was exposing. But this wasn't random. Not even close. The tension between Ja Rule and 50 Cent goes back over 2 decades, one of the longest-running feuds in hip-hop history. Some say it started in 1999, after Ja Rule was robbed at gunpoint in Queens by someone linked to 50 Circle. From there, the story split. In his book From Pieces to Weight, 50 claimed Ja Rule became hostile after seeing him around the same person involved in the robbery. But Ja Rule told a different version, insisting he never saw that connection, and that the real issue began after 50 felt disrespected by Murder Inc. What followed was chaos. Diss tracks, street confrontations, and one of the most infamous studio incidents in rap history. When G-Unit crossed paths with Murder Incorporated at Hit Factory Studios in New York, things turned violent. Ja Rule reportedly showed up after hearing 50 was there, and the situation escalated fast. During the clash, 50 Cent was stabbed by Murder Incorporated affiliate Black Child. So when Ja Rule came for 50 over the documentary, it wasn't just commentary. It was history repeating itself. Ja Rule had been openly supportive of Sean Diddy Combs since the lawsuits began piling up. Meanwhile, 50 was doing the exact opposite, clashing publicly with Diddy's camp at every turn. And when Ja Rule attacked, 50 responded the only way he knows how, with more fuel. He posted a clip featuring former Diddy bodyguard Gene Deal, who claimed he once saw Diddy and Ja Rule walking out of a room together wearing nothing but towels. The implication? Left hanging in the air. Now you see why they coming at me, 50 captioned, laughing it off, but making sure everyone saw it. And just when it seemed like the situation couldn't get more layered, it did. Diddy's own sons stepped into the spotlight. Justin Combs and Christian Combs announced they were working on their own documentary series for Zeus Network, set to release in 2026. But this time, the story would be told from their perspective. The trailer, posted on December 28, 2025, showed them watching courtroom footage, processing everything their family had gone through. Same story, different lens. And the battle over the truth? It was far from over. In May 2024, Christian Combs stepped into the chaos with a track called Pick a Side, a direct show of loyalty to his father and a clear shot at critics like 50 Cent. Around that same time, both he and his brother Justin Combs were briefly detained and handcuffed during a federal search of their father's home in March 2024. They weren't charged. They weren't arrested. But the optics? Explosive. And through all of it, 50 never let up, not even for a second. Even after a calm, controlled sit-down on Good Morning America, 50 flipped the switch right back into chaos mode. With sharp edits and calculated posts, he reignited old narratives, including the long-whispered connection between Sean, Diddy Combs, and Jay-Z tied to a controversial case that was later dismissed but never fully forgotten. But he didn't stop at social media. He turned the trolling into marketing. In a bold, almost surreal move, 50 Cent launched a commercial campaign with DoorDash titled The Big Beef. At first glance, it looked like a typical ad. But beneath the surface, it was something else entirely. A masterclass in calculated disrespect. In the clip, 50 smirks and claims his trolling days are behind him, while doing the exact opposite. The 50-month line wasn't random. It was a direct jab at the prison sentence Sean Diddy Combs began serving in late 2025. This wasn't humor. It was strategy. It was 50 Cent turning a global campaign into a stage, and using it to mock a man whose empire was collapsing in real time. After already executive producing Sean Combs, The Reckoning, he wasn't just telling stories anymore. He was shaping narratives, controlling perception. In this world, he wasn't just a participant in the drama. He was both the historian and the executioner. And the fallout? Massive. Between Ja Rule reigniting old wars, Diddy's sons stepping forward, and the entire internet dissecting every frame of the documentary, the culture was in a frenzy. But while everyone else was reacting, 50 was already moving on to his next target. And that's where things took an even darker turn. On March 5th, 2026, 50 Cent dropped a post that instantly lit the internet on fire. It wasn't subtle. It wasn't vague. It was a direct hit. He shared a screenshot claiming he was developing a new documentary, this time centered around T.I. and Tamika, Tiny, Harris, tied to serious allegations that had been circulating for years. The caption? Chilling. Remember how quiet I got before the Diddy doc? He wrote. They thought I wasn't coming. Then came the warning, one that felt less like promotion and more like a threat. He referenced over 20 alleged cases and suggested it might be time for crisis PR. It was calculated, precise, and impossible to ignore. Even the title carried weight. The project, reportedly called Surviving T.I. and Tiny, echoed the infamous Surviving R. Kelly, a series that dismantled a career and shifted public perception overnight. The message was clear. This wasn't just another documentary. This was a warning shot. But this feud didn't start here. The tension between 50 Cent and T.I. goes all the way back to 2007, when 50 publicly accused T.I. of cooperating with authorities after a weapons case. The years passed, but the friction never fully disappeared. Then in February 2026, it reignited. During a promo run for his album Kill the King, T.I. called out 50 for avoiding a Verzuz battle during an appearance with Shannon Sharpe. 50 responded the only way he knows how, through trolling. But this time, T.I. didn't back down. He fired off multiple diss tracks in rapid succession, turning up the heat. And then it escalated. T.I.'s sons, including King Harris, jumped into the conflict, dropping their own tracks and amplifying the tension. But what happened next crossed a line that even shocked fans. King Harris went live and launched into a rant targeting 50 Cent's late mother, Sabrina Jackson, who passed away when he was just 8 years old. The attack was harsh, personal. And then came the image, a t-shirt featuring her face. It was a moment that shifted the tone from rivalry to something much darker. Even T.I. had to step in. In an interview on The Breakfast Club, he made it clear that his son acted on his own, but admitted he told him to pull back after the backlash. Still, the damage had already been done. And 50 Cent? He didn't respond with music. He responded with something far more dangerous. A documentary. Because while diss tracks fade, film lasts forever. His previous project, Sean Combs' The Reckoning, had already shown what he was capable of, turning real-life allegations into global narratives. And now, he was aiming that same lens at a new target. The accusations surrounding T.I. and Tamika Tiny Harris are serious. Over 30 women and one man have come forward since 2021, alleging a pattern involving drugging, kidnapping, and sexual assault. The couple has strongly denied every claim. But in a world where perception can become reality overnight, the question isn't just what's true. It's who controls the story next. Back in January 2021, an Atlanta entrepreneur, Sabrina Peterson, made a shocking public claim, alleging that T.I. once held a gun to her head. What followed was immediate and overwhelming. One voice turned into many. Dozens of women began stepping forward, their stories carrying an unsettling pattern. They described being invited into exclusive spaces, VIP sections, private suites, offered drinks, and then, they claimed, something far more disturbing happened behind closed doors. The accusations painted a chilling picture. But when it came to the courtroom, the outcome told a different story. Despite the volume and similarities in these claims, no criminal convictions ever materialized. Investigations were opened in cities like Los Angeles and Las Vegas, but they stalled before reaching trial. The reason? Time. In many cases, the statute of limitations had already expired, closing the door on potential charges before they could even begin. Through it all, T.I. and Tamika Tiny Harris stood firm, denying every allegation. T.I. addressed it directly, insisting that anything he and his wife had ever been involved in was fully consensual. According to him, they didn't need coercion or secrecy. They knew exactly where to find willing participants. Legally, the system backed them. No convictions. No formal charges. But this isn't just about the courtroom anymore. Because 50 Cent isn't playing by legal rules. He's playing in the space between truth and perception. And that space? It's powerful. As of March 2026, there's no confirmed production schedule. No official deal. No verified footage. In fact, there's no concrete proof that surviving T.I. and Tiny even exists as a real project. But that might be the most strategic move of all. Because in today's viral landscape, the idea of exposure can hit harder than the exposure itself. The threat becomes the weapon. And 50 knows exactly how to use it. He even took things a step further, embedding shots at T.I. into the theme of power origins, turning a soundtrack into a statement. It wasn't just about music. It was about escalation. The lyrics didn't just target T.I. They reached his wife, his family, his circle, dragging a nearly two-decade-old rivalry back into the spotlight with a vengeance. At this point, the pattern is impossible to ignore. 50 Cent already proved what he's capable of with Sean Combs' The Reckoning. That four-part series, released on Netflix in December 2025, didn't just perform well. It exploded, pulling in over 21 million views in less than a week. It showed the industry something new, something dangerous. He doesn't just talk anymore. He documents. He frames. He defines the narrative. And now he's pointing that same lens at T.I. Whether this new documentary ever actually drops is almost irrelevant. The damage or the pressure has already started. T.I. is on defense. The conversation is dominated. And every artist watching from the sidelines is being reminded of one thing. If there's a story to tell, 50 Cent might be the one telling it. He's survived bullets, outlasted trends, built empires in music, television, and business. But through all of it, one trait has never changed. He never lets conflict die. He studies it. He feeds it. And when the moment is right, he weaponizes it. And based on everything unfolding right now, this isn't the climax. It's the opening act. Because if history has proven anything, it's this. 50 Cent doesn't slow down, doesn't forgive, and never, ever forgets. So now the question isn't what happens next. It's who's next.